I was already screaming when I realized the cabin had no light. Not no light as in dim or broken. No light as in nothing that could possibly make light. And yet the walls around me were alive with shadows. They were moving, walking, breathing, and every single one of them was circling me. Before I tell you how I got there, you need to understand something. That cabin was never supposed to exist, and whatever was inside it followed me out. I've hunted the forests of northern Alberta for most of my life. I know those woods better than I know my own hometown. I know how the trees bend when a storm is coming. I know how the air smells before snow. And I know one rule every hunter lives by. If the forest goes quiet, you leave. I broke that rule, and I almost didn't come back. It started like any other trip. Early morning, gray sky, frost clinging to the ground. I parked my truck just before sunrise and checked my gear. Rifle, ammo, compass, GPS, everything was perfect, too perfect. I remember thinking how quiet it was. No birds, no wind, just my boots crunching through frozen leaves. That should have been my first warning. By mid-morning, I was deeper than I planned to be. The trees grew thicker, older, closer together. My GPS flickered once, then again, then went black. I laughed it off at first. Technology fails. The woods don't. That's what I believed. The fog came fast. One moment, I could see 50 yards ahead. The next, I couldn't see my own hands. It swallowed the forest whole. Sound vanished. Direction vanished. Even time felt wrong. I checked my compass. The needle spun like it was panicking. That's when I realized I was lost. Truly lost. Have you ever felt watched? Not imagined it. Felt it. Like pressure on the back of your neck. Like eyes pressing into your spine. The fog wasn't empty. It was crowded. And whatever was around me was quiet on purpose. That's when I saw it. A single warm yellow light. Soft, steady, impossible. It glowed through the fog like a promise. A cabin, old, weathered, but standing where nothing should have been. Relief hit me so hard my knees nearly buckled. I didn't question it. I ran toward the light. Up close, the cabin felt wrong. The wood was ancient, but untouched by rot. No tracks in the snow, no smoke, no sound. Just that light, glowing, waiting. The door was slightly open, and I swear it widened when I stepped closer. The moment I stepped inside, the fog vanished behind me. The door shut, not slammed, not locked, just closed. The room was empty, no furniture, no lamp, no wires, no candles, nothing, and yet the light was everywhere. That's when the shadows started moving. They slid along the walls, stretching, bending, shaped like people. Tall ones, bent ones, too many. They circled me slowly, like they were deciding who would touch me first. My breath came out in white clouds, but the room wasn't cold, it was expectant. I realized the truth too late. The light wasn't coming from the cabin, the light was coming from them, from behind the walls, from somewhere I couldn't see. The shadows leaned closer, and I heard whispering, not in my ears, inside my head, saying my name. I don't remember turning around. I don't remember opening the door. I only remember running. The fog burned my lungs. Branches tore my skin. Something chased me, heavy, close, breathing where I had just been. I didn't stop. Not when I fell, not when I screamed, not until I saw my truck. I slammed the door and locked it. My hands shook so badly I dropped my keys. I looked back. The fog thinned. The trees stood empty. No cabin, no light, nothing, like it had never existed. I don't hunt anymore. Fog still makes my chest tighten, and sometimes, late at night, I see a warm yellow glow through my window. There's no cabin outside, but the shadows inside my room start to move. If you ever get lost in the woods and you see a cabin with the light on, don't go inside, because it isn't shelter, it's a doorway, and something is always waiting for you to step through. I used to think I knew what fear sounded like. I was wrong. Fear doesn't always come from something you can see. Sometimes it comes as a sound that doesn't belong in the world at all. It was just after midnight when we heard it. A scream. Not close, not far. Somewhere deep in the trees. It was long, broken, like someone begging for help while their lungs were already giving up. I remember sitting straight up on the couch, my heart slamming so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. And the worst part, it didn't sound human, but it wanted us to think it was. There were 5 of us, college kids, stupid, tired, feeling untouchable. We were on a road trip through rural Maine, chasing cheap thrills before summer ended. No plan, no signal, just back roads, gas station snacks, and bad music. We found the cabin by accident, mile marker 46. An old sign leaned sideways near the road, almost hidden by weeds. A dirt path cut into the woods, and at the end sat a cabin that looked forgotten by time. It smelled like dust and pine sap inside. The lights flickered, the walls creaked even when nothing moved. We laughed it off. We shouldn't have. The scream came back, this time closer. It cut straight through the cabin walls like they weren't even there. Someone spilled their drink, someone else started crying. My brain kept trying to label it, fox, bobcat, moose, but none of those fit. This scream had words inside it. Not real words, but the shape of them. Like it was practicing how to sound human. That's when we called the police. The dispatcher tried to stay calm. She asked questions. How many screams? How long? Did we see anyone? Then she paused. Stay inside, she said. An officer will come by. Lock the doors. Her voice dropped at the end, like she knew something she wasn't allowed to say. Outside, something moved. Slow, heavy, circling. The cruiser lights finally cut through the trees. Red, blue, flashing against the cabin walls like a warning. The officer didn't look surprised. He didn't joke, didn't smile. He listened while we talked over each other, pointing toward the woods. Then he nodded. You did the right thing, he said. Relief washed over me, until he added, but that wasn't a woman. We asked if it was a moose. He shook his head. Moose don't scream that way, he said quietly. Then he looked past us, into the trees. But something out here does. My stomach dropped. He told us to keep the lights on, stay inside, don't open the door for anyone. Then he left, before dark fully settled. The forest changed after sunset. The usual sounds vanished, no insects, no wind, just silence, then footsteps, slow, heavy, right outside the cabin. Whatever it was walking in circles. It screamed again, closer than before, and this time it changed. It sounded like a person trying to speak through a broken mouth, almost words, almost my name. We shut off the lights. That's when it stopped screaming and started whispering. Knock, 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 soft, polite. Help me, a woman's voice said. It came from the door. We didn't move because we could hear the breathing, and it was coming from above us. It never left. It walked, it whispered, it learned our voices. Every time we spoke, it tried to repeat us, badly, like a recording played through torn speakers. We stayed awake until sunrise, holding our breath, listening. When the sun came up, the forest looked normal, too normal. No tracks, no signs, except one thing, scratches, tall ones, on the roof. We left immediately, never looked back. Weeks later, I searched mile marker 46. No cabin, no road, just trees. And sometimes, late at night, I hear a scream, practicing. Have you ever been alone with someone, sitting just a few feet away from them, and suddenly realized the voice you're hearing doesn't belong to their mouth? Because that's what happened to me. And once you experience something like that, your brain never really shuts it out. You replay it, over and over, every detail, every second where you should have noticed something was wrong, but didn't. This happened outside San Angelo, Texas, late at night, on a road so empty it felt forgotten. And even now, I still wonder if she ever existed at all, or if something else climbed into my car that night. I drive rideshare to pay the bills. Long hours, late nights, endless roads. After a while, every trip starts to blur together, but this one didn't. The request popped up just after midnight. Pickup location, 30 miles outside San Angelo. No nearby buildings, no gas stations, no houses, just desert. The app lagged when I accepted it. The rider name didn't load, no profile picture, no rating, just a blinking circle where a face should have been. I remember staring at my phone, thumb hovering over cancel. Something in my gut told me to turn around. Instead, I put the car in drive. I saw her long before my headlights fully reached her, a shape on the shoulder of the highway, standing still. As I got closer, she lifted her arm and waved, slow, weak, like she'd been standing there for a very long time. She was wearing a light-colored dress that didn't belong out there, too thin, too clean, no purse, no phone, no jacket, just her. I pulled over, heart pounding, and rolled the window down a crack. The wind outside was dead quiet. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. That should have been enough for me to drive away. It wasn't. She opened the back door and climbed in without saying a word. Didn't thank me. Didn't ask where we were going. Didn't even look at me. As soon as the door shut, the inside of the car felt different. Colder, heavier, like the air had thickened. I glanced at her in the mirror. She was staring out the window, eyes fixed on the darkness rushing past. "Where should I take you?" I asked. No response. After a few seconds, the navigation updated on its own. A destination appeared. I didn't remember entering it. About 10 minutes into the drive, I heard something that made my chest tighten. A whisper. Low, rough, male. "Don't look at her." I jerked my foot off the gas. The sound didn't come from the radio. It didn't come from outside. It came from inside the car. My hands clenched the steering wheel as I asked, "Did you say something?" The woman didn't move. Then she answered. Her lips didn't move at all. "Do you hear him too?" My eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. What I saw made my stomach drop. Her reflection was turned toward me. Her real body was still facing the window, but the reflection was smiling. Her eyes were locked on mine. Wide, bright, wrong. Before I could speak, the other voice returned. "She's not supposed to know I'm here." I told myself I was exhausted, that my brain was filling in gaps that weren't real. I reached for the radio and cranked it up. Static exploded from the speakers. The voice laughed, soft, close. "Turn around," it whispered. I stared straight ahead, afraid that if I looked back, something permanent would change. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely keep the car in my lane. The woman spoke again. Still no movement from her mouth. "He talks when I sleep," she said calmly. "He wears my voice. He wants rides." The reflection blinked. Her body didn't. I swallowed hard. "Who is he?" I asked. The reflection tilted its head. "I am," it said. That's when I saw lights in the distance. A gas station. I've never felt relief like that before. I pulled in fast, barely slowing down, gravel popping under my tires. I parked and twisted around in my seat. The back seat was empty. No woman, no reflection, no sound. The seatbelt was unbuckled, swinging slightly, like it had just been touched. Inside the gas station, the clerk listened without interrupting. When I finished, he didn't look surprised. He walked over to a corkboard behind the counter and pointed. Missing posters. Women of different ages, same dead-eyed stares. "All picked up on that road," he said quietly. "All disappeared." My throat went dry. "What happens to them?" I asked. He shook his head. "No one knows who gets out." I drove home with every light on, no music, no radio. Halfway there, I heard breathing, slow, calm, from the back seat. Then a voice, my voice, whispered softly, "Don't stop driving." I never looked in the mirror again. But sometimes late at night, when I'm alone, I hear myself speaking from behind me, and I still don't know which voice survived that night. If you're enjoying these horror stories, hit that like button, comment your favorite story, and subscribe for more spine-chilling horror stories every week. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. I want to start this story at the moment I realized something was very, very wrong. Not when we got lost. Not when the GPS died. Not even when we drove into a town that shouldn't have existed. It was when I noticed the clocks. Every single one of them was frozen at the same exact time. 3:17. They weren't broken. They weren't dusty antiques. Some of them were electric, humming softly, still plugged into the wall. Yet none of them moved. And the worst part, I had the sickening feeling that they could start again at any moment, that they were only waiting for something, maybe for us. My name is Ethan, and this happened during my junior year of college. My best friend Mark and I were driving cross-country, sleeping in cheap motels, surviving on gas station food, and pretending we had everything figured out. It was supposed to be fun, carefree. We decided to cut through rural Appalachia to save time. That was our first mistake. It was well past midnight. The mountains around us were nothing but massive black shapes pressing in from both sides of the road. Then the GPS froze. The screen flickered once and went black. At the exact same moment, my low fuel warning chimed. Mark laughed, trying to keep things light. but my stomach dropped, because the road ahead started to change. The pavement narrowed, the lines faded, trees leaned closer, their branches arching overhead like ribs. Then we saw it. A narrow road turning sharply into the woods. No street sign, no marker, no name, just darkness. We looked at each other. We both knew. We didn't have enough gas to keep going straight. So I turned the wheel. The road twisted downhill far longer than it should have. Then, without warning, the trees opened up. Streetlights appeared, perfectly spaced, warm, inviting. We rolled into a small town that looked completely normal, too normal. Buildings stood upright and intact. Windows weren't broken. Cars were parked neatly as if their owners planned to return any minute. But there were no people, no voices, no footsteps, not even the sound of insects. When I shut off the engine, the silence was so absolute my ears rang. Mark whispered, "Where is everyone?" I didn't answer. I was staring at the town sign behind us. It was completely blank. The diner sat at the center of town. Its neon sign buzzed softly. Open. It was the only sound we'd heard since arriving. Inside, everything felt wrong in a way I still can't explain. The lights were on. Coffee sat in cups, still warm. A grill behind the counter looked recently used. Food half prepared, like the entire town had stood up and left at the same exact moment. That's when I noticed the clocks. One above the counter, one near the bathrooms, one behind the kitchen window. Every single one frozen at 3:17. Mark tried to joke about it, but his voice cracked. Mine wouldn't come out at all. I went to the restroom, trying to calm down. The mirror fogged over the second I stepped inside. For just a moment I thought I saw a shape behind me, a figure that didn't belong, but when I turned, I was alone. Still, the feeling stayed, that crawling sensation between my shoulders, like the town was aware of us now. We decided to leave immediately. The moment we stepped outside, the air felt heavier, thicker. I started the car and drove back the way we came, but the road was gone. Where pavement had been was nothing but dense forest, towering trees, thick undergrowth, like the road had never existed. Mark started yelling. I couldn't breathe. Behind us, the town lights flickered. Footsteps echoed behind us, slow, measured. An elderly woman stepped into the streetlight. Her clothes looked decades old. Her eyes were sharp, too sharp. She looked at us like she'd seen this before. "You shouldn't stay past dark," she said calmly. Mark asked her where everyone was. She smiled faintly. "People forget themselves here." Then she leaned closer. "Most don't remember they're missing." I looked up. The stars weren't right. There were too many. They felt too close, like the sky itself was pressing down on the town. The woman followed my gaze. "Go," she whispered, "before the clocks move." A narrow path opened between the trees. I swear it wasn't there before. The woman stepped back into the shadows. "Don't stop," she said. "Don't look behind you." I hit the gas. Branches scraped the car. Whispers filled the air. Not voices, but memories. Halfway through the forest, Mark went quiet. Too quiet. Then he asked me my name, then his own. I realized the clocks were moving again. I screamed at him to remember who he was, to hold on. The forest suddenly ended. We burst onto a highway, real pavement, real signs. The gas gauge jumped back to half, the GPS came back online, the town was gone. We didn't sleep. At sunrise, we searched for the town. Nothing came up, no maps, no photos, no records, except one thing. An old newspaper scan, 1950s. Missing travelers, vanished near the same mountain road. Some names were crossed out, like they'd been found, but no bodies were listed. At the bottom of the article was a note, time of last contact, 3:17 a.m. Mark got sick. I couldn't stop staring. It's been years. Mark doesn't remember the town at all, but I do. And every night, at exactly 3:17, my phone lights up. No notification, just a map. A blank spot in the Appalachian Mountains, and one word beneath it, open. I want you to understand this first. I am not guessing. I am not exaggerating. And I am not mistaken about what I saw looking down at me from the top of that tower. Because even though the tower no longer exists, it's still staring at me in the photographs. I didn't notice it right away. I wish I never had. If I had looked closer sooner, maybe I wouldn't still wake up every night at exactly 4 a.m., heart racing, convinced something is standing above my bed. Its head tilted, joints bent the wrong way, waiting for the light to turn on. I was working as a wildlife surveyor for the Canadian Forestry Service. Nothing exciting, no monsters, no mystery. My job was simple: hike into remote northern territory and document forest damage caused by wildfires, parasites, and migration shifts. I'd been doing it for years. I trusted maps more than people. Solitude was normal. This assignment pushed me farther north than usual. So far north that my satellite phone cut out for hours at a time. So far that the trees grew thinner, twisted by wind and cold, like they were trying to crawl away from something buried beneath the soil. I remember thinking the silence felt heavier there. Not peaceful, heavy. It was late afternoon when I found the clearing. No birds, no insects, just open ground surrounded by dead grass like the earth itself had been burned without fire. And in the center of it stood a watchtower. Steel, rusted, ancient-looking. It made no sense. There were no stairs, no ladder, no bolts where one might have been removed. The platform at the top sat at least 40 feet up, impossible to reach, yet the structure stood perfectly upright, as if waiting. I noticed the smell before I noticed the bodies. Rot, metallic, sweet in a way that made my throat tighten. At the base of the tower were animals, dozens of them. Deer, wolves, birds, even smaller things I couldn't identify anymore. They were arranged in perfect circles, not scattered, not dragged, placed. Each circle faced the tower, every skull pointed inward, like they had been watching it. I raised my camera and started documenting everything. That's when the feeling hit me, the unmistakable sense of being watched, not from the trees, from above. I slowly tilted my head back, scanning the empty platform. Nothing was there. Still, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I took photos anyway. I told myself fear was normal, that isolation messes with the brain. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I should have packed up and left immediately. Instead, I marked the coordinates and hiked several miles away to set up camp. I didn't want to sleep near that thing. Night fell fast, too fast. The forest grew quiet again, like it was holding its breath. I zipped myself into my tent and tried not to think about circles. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. I didn't know why at first. Then I saw it. A faint glow on the horizon, a single light, high above the tree line. My stomach dropped. The watchtower. The light was on. I grabbed my binoculars. My hands were shaking so badly I had to steady them against my knees. When the image finally focused, I almost screamed. Something was standing at the top. Tall, too tall. Its limbs bent at angles that didn't belong to any living thing. Its head never turned. It only tilted, slowly, like it was studying something beneath it, like it was studying me. The light stayed on all night. The thing never left. Sometimes it leaned forward, sometimes it straightened, but it never turned its head. I didn't sleep. I just watched the light until the sky began to gray. And then, the light shut off. At first light, I packed my gear and returned to the coordinates. The clearing was still there. The trees were still dead. The circles were gone, and so was the tower. No footprints, no debris, nothing, just empty ground. Back home, I reported everything. They checked satellite imagery, decades worth. There had never been a structure there. No watchtower, no clearing, nothing. They told me I was exhausted. They told me to take time off. Weeks later, I finally opened the photos on my camera. Most were normal. Then I reached the first image of the tower. I zoomed in, and there it was. At the top, not a silhouette, a face. Too many joints in its neck, eyes locked downward, right at the lens. That photo still exists. I've tried deleting it. It comes back. Sometimes I swear the angle changes. Sometimes the head tilts more. And every night, at exactly 4 a.m., my room fills with the soft glow of a light that has no source. I don't look up anymore, because I know it finally found a place where the tower doesn't need to exist. I need to say this first. If you ever hear a voice calling your name in a place where no one should exist, do not answer it, because some things don't want help. They want to learn you. I was paddling through the river in total darkness, hands bleeding, arms shaking, lungs burning. The moon was gone, the water was black, and behind me, Something was breathing exactly when I breathed. Not chasing me, not falling behind, keeping pace. I didn't look back, I didn't dare, because it already knew what I looked like. This was supposed to be simple. I was documenting a multi-day solo kayak trip through one of the most remote rivers in the Australian outback. No towns, no camps, no signal, just red earth, dead silence, and water cutting through it all. I wanted quiet. I wanted distance from people. I got exactly what I asked for. The second evening was when everything broke. I had just finished setting up camp. The sun was low, the air was cooling fast. That's when I heard it. A voice. Weak, dry, cracked. Help, please. It came from upstream, human, absolutely human. My first thought was heat stroke. My second thought was impossible. No one could have reached this stretch of river without days of travel. No roads, no trails. Still, I couldn't ignore it. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped back into the kayak. The voice called again, same distance, same volume. I paddled upstream. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The voice never got closer, never farther, always the same. Help, I'm here. My stomach tightened. That's when it changed. It said my name. I froze. I hadn't spoken my name out loud. I hadn't logged it on camera. I whispered, "Who are you?" The voice replied. In my voice, "Who are you?" Seconds later, "Perfect." I laughed. A nervous, broken laugh. So did it. I breathed faster. So did it. I stopped paddling. The water went still, and I heard breathing beside me, but nothing was there. The sun slipped below the horizon. That's when the voice stopped copying and finally spoke clearly. I've learned enough now. The words were calm, satisfied. I screamed, and it screamed too. I paddled harder than I ever had in my life. Branches tore at my arms. My hands blistered and split. All night long I heard it behind me, breathing when I breathed, moving when I moved, never rushing, never stopping. Weeks later, back home, I reviewed my footage. That's when I noticed something worse. The voice was on the audio tracks, even during moments when I remembered total silence. Sometimes it answered questions I never asked out loud. I never uploaded the trip. I sold the kayak, sold the camera, deleted the channel. I stopped camping, stopped going anywhere quiet. Because sometimes, late at night, I hear my own voice whispering from another room. If you ever visit the outback and hear someone calling for help from the river, remember this. It already knows how you sound, and it's still learning. Thanks for watching Sinister Horror Diaries. If this story followed you a little too closely, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true-feeling nightmares. Until next time, stay safe, stay scared, stay sinister.